Hi, so I'm Craig from Yorkshire Mesmac, back with another instalment of Pride in Our City. And today I am joined by
Liam, and I'm 32 years old from Hull.
fantastic, thank you for joining us, Liam. So let's jump straight into it then, Liam. So, what makes Pride important to you?
Well, I think it's important that we have these yearly Pride celebrations and parades, more to keep the the fact that homophobia is still very prevalent in society, even in this day and age. And although we've come a long way, I think it's still so important to kind of keep it at the forefront of people's minds.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And I think, people still get looks when they're walking down the streets, people still get, shouted at, and then there's still people in this country who are being attacked simply for who they are, who they love. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It is still really prevalent. It's different to what it used to be, but I think until we can all sort of walk down the streets with our partner or being our true authentic self and feel completely safe, we'll always need pride.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've certainly come a long way, and that's definitely something to be proud about and celebrate. Um, but we can't forget that there's still a long way to go.
Absolutely. So, how does attending Pride in Hull make you feel?
It definitely gives me a sense of sort of liberation, um, and just generally fills me with pride, which is what it's all about, I guess. I mean, when I was sort of younger, and I was sort of growing up, and I was coming to terms with my sexuality. You kind of didn't always feel like you could be yourself or go out and to certain places through the fear of being, frowned upon or being given looks or called names or any of the other forms that homophobia comes in. Um, so I think by going to Pride, you kind of it's you putting your foot down. It's you saying that you're not going to stand for it, for any of these negative things that happen to us.
Absolutely. So, what makes Pride special for you then?
Um, well, I mean, the main thing is it brings everyone together. You go to Pride and you've got people from not just the LGBT community, but from all walks of life, and they're all coming together to celebrate a common, you know, don't like to call it an issue, but well, no, it is an issue, isn't it? I mean, it's joined forces. People from whether they're straight, whether they're gay, whether they're trans, lesbian, it just pulls everybody together, um, with one common goal.
Absolutely. And I think, there is still parts of that's an issue, as, we've just sort of been saying, certainly around homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, that's still very apparent in our society. That is a massive issue.
Yeah, and it's nice to see people that are not, from the LGBT community sort of attending these places, because it sort of shows them why we need pride. Um, and people talk afterwards because it's such a good and it's such a big event that people do talk afterwards about it, and it does keep it there in people's minds.
It absolutely does. And I think one of the only ways that we're going to continue moving forward as a society and things are going to continue getting better is to be having people from outside of our community coming to those events and seeing actually maybe those things that I thought about this community are wrong, or maybe those stereotypes that I've heard are true, and actually, these people are just like me. We've got some differences, but we've got so many similarities as well. We're all just human.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, I think a lot of the misconception is that it's a life choice, and it's not. None of us can change how we feel inside, or who we fall in love with, or even down to how we feel within ourselves. So yeah, it's definitely that's like the big issue for me.
Yeah, and that's always one of the things that instantly sort of gets the skin on the back of my hair up, skin on the back of my neck up, even not hair. The hair on the back of my neck, I will be able to speak at some point. When people say things like lifestyle choice or preference, anything like, do you honestly think that we would choose to put ourselves into a category where we're targeted by people where we're still having to fight for our rights? Nobody's going to make that choice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's good to sort of highlight that to people that, maybe don't, it might not be because they're ignorant, but they maybe just genuinely don't sort of see it as it being built into our bodies, if you know, like into our person. I don't know how to say it. It's not a choice at the end of the day, no more than it is that Joe Bloggs has got ginger hair, or
Absolutely,
no control over it.
Yeah, it's something that we're born with, and I think, yeah, some people, the sort of preconceptions that they have might not come from a malicious place. It might simply be that they don't know anybody from the LGBT community. They've never really had that reference to learn from things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially if their only representation that they've had is the media, while the media's got so much better over the years, it's still not perfect, and there's still a lot of those stereotypes that are perpetuated, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, do you remember your first Pride then?
Just. Yeah, it was back in Pearson Park, and it'll have been somewhere around 2004, I think.
Yeah.
I think I'd not long been left school, so about 2004, 2005. And I actually went by myself. I was so scared. But when I got there, it was just like you saw all this colour and all these people and all these stalls, and it kind of made you feel a little bit like a kid at Hull Fair. Because it kind of fills you with joy, but then you once you're there, you kind of start to see various different people from all walks of life, and you just kind of realize that you're not the only one out there that is gay, or in my case, or lesbian, or whatever. So yeah, it was definitely a reassuring experience.
Good. So, if somebody had never been to Pride then and was quite nervous about going to a Pride event, what would you say to them?
I would say, literally, I would invite them to come with me. I would say you have to go. It is such a liberating experience, and I would literally go with them if that's what it took.
And that's amazing that you would as well. So, you've been going to Pride for quite a while then.
I
So,
have, yeah.
out of all of the Prides that you've been to, what is your most memorable memory of attending Pride in Hull?
Definitely, I would have to say last year's Pride, 2019. It was probably the biggest one for a start that I'd ever been to. I mean, there was loads of sort of major headlines there. I mean, it was absolutely huge. And it was actually the Pride that got me to join the Hull Roundheads. It's where I first met the Roundheads lads. My partner was actually, he'd been playing for him for a couple of months up until Pride. So I met them all there, and there was just a really good bunch of lads. Got talking to them and ended up joining the next week.
Brilliant. So, good things to come from it then.
Absolutely.
Okay, so why, we've already spoke about this a little bit, but why do you think Pride is so important for our city?
Yeah, so I mean, as I was saying earlier, I mean, I'm lucky enough not to have experienced sort of hate or homophobia too much throughout my adult life. Certainly in school, I used to receive a lot of comments and bullying. And you kind of just grow a thick skin to it. Well, I did anyway. I'm not saying everybody is that way. But it was only the other day I was actually shopping in the supermarket, and of course with social distancing and things like that, there was this guy literally breathing down my neck. I just literally politely asked him if he would take a step back. And well, I won't repeat fully what he said because it's not exactly PC, but he essentially responded with a few swear words and called me a gay boy, which, you know, it kind of took me aback really, because I thought we'd come so far, and I've never really experienced that in adult life before, maybe only once or twice. So it was kind of a surprise to still sort of see that it goes on, especially in our home city as well. Which is why I think it's important, again, you know, that we have pride, so that the people that do show hate or maybe don't understand the LGBT community, it gives them a chance to sort of rethink their own stance on how they treat people.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that happened to you. That's, you know, it's never okay. And, you know, politely turning around to somebody and saying, "Can you take a step back?" when we're in the midst of a global pandemic and we're being told to socially distance. You know, I mean, somebody shouldn't be so close to breathing down your neck anyway. But then if somebody turns around to politely says, "Sorry, but could you step back a little bit, please?" The only response to that is, "Yes, sorry, step back," not to
Yeah.
then give somebody verbal abuse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not under any illusion that I'm some macho man. You know, I have my femininity, you know, sort of the way that I am. I'm not what might be perceived by some people as straight acting, which I hate that term because you're not acting at all. But yeah, so you know, some people might look at me and think he's a bit effeminate. He's, I don't know, he minces or whatever they want to say about me. But yeah, I mean, it really took me aback what he said, and I was kind of just lost for words, which is what really annoyed me the most, to be fair, is that I didn't sort of stand my ground there and then. I just kind of walked out.
Yeah, and I get that, but I think as well it's important to not berate yourself for that because, you know, especially if it's taken you aback so much, it's not surprising that you didn't really respond to it. And, you know, one thing that I always say to people is if you don't feel comfortable or safe challenging something, then you shouldn't. And you shouldn't feel like you have a responsibility to do that if you don't feel comfortable or you feel safe. At the end of the day, the issue there is the person that said what they've said, not the victim of that for not then challenging that person.
Yeah, and you know what? You know, I'm sat here this evening doing this video and having a chat with yourself. You know, this is going to be out there whenever it's released, and you know, I hope this guy comes across the video and sees it, and you know, I'll say I'm sorry that happened, but I hope you learn from it.
And hopefully he does see this and learn from it. And I mean, another thing that I would say to you and to anybody else watching this really is, you know, somebody giving you abuse in the street for who you are is not okay. It is a hate incident or a hate crime, and that's absolutely something people can report to the police. And if people wanted any support in doing that, then they can always come and speak to us at Yorkshire Mesmac as well to get some support in doing that.
Yeah, and that's fab as well. You know, knowing all these other places that you can go to report these things and just generally get support.
Because it can be really daunting going to the police for anything, really.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, I'm a member of the Roundheads, and you know, again, I think that kind of helps to break the stigma down a little bit because historically, you know, rugby players has been a very sort of heterosexual sport, if you know what I mean. So, you know, we're breaking barriers in that way as well. So, you know, hopefully all these things that we do every year and throughout the year will change people's minds.
I think it already has changed people's minds. I think you're right. I mean, rugby and a lot of sports really have been certainly quite hetero dominated, and there's certainly very few people within those sports professionally that are out as being anything other than heterosexual,
Yeah.
cisgendered men. And I think teams like the Roundheads is definitely going to change that perspective for people on the fact that doesn't matter what your sexuality is, doesn't matter what your gender is, if you want to get involved in that sport, you have a right to get involved in that sport.
Exactly. Yeah. But also, I mean, like Pride as well, it shows that anyone can be involved, whether that's with rugby or whether that's with Pride. I think sometimes there's a bit of a misconception that only the LGBT community can go to Pride, and that it's not for the heterosexual community. And that's not true. It's all about inclusivity. So yeah.
It absolutely is. And, the thing that I always say to people is, the Pride movement isn't going to get much further if it is just members of the LGBT community that are there. It needs to be everybody that's there, and we need allies there, to come and be a part of it and help us in moving forward in getting the rights that we deserve as human beings.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so last but not least then, do you think that Pride in Hull has changed people's perspectives, and if so, in what way and how?
I think, yeah, I do think it has changed people's perspectives. I mean, I'll go back to my own experiences growing up when I was coming to terms with my own sexuality. That was sort of late 90s, early 2000s when I really started to sort of figure out that I was gay. And at the time, to me, it was just on the society was just on the turn of kind of like becoming more accepting, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so I think I've just completely lost my trail of thought. What was the question? Sorry.
So, do you think Pride in Hull has changed people's perspectives?
Yeah. So I think, yeah, definitely over the years it has, because you see a lot less of the types of things I've been talking about just now. You see a lot less incidents of that now than you would have done, say, 10, 15 years ago. Or certainly it's something I've noticed anyway. And I do think that it has changed people's perspectives. Again, and I'll go back to saying it includes not just the LGBT community, but the heterosexual community or any other community that wants to come along to Pride, see what we're all about. And I think that's how it's changed people's perspectives.
Absolutely. So, is there anything else you want to add into what we've talked about then? I know we've talked about quite a bit.
We have. No, I mean, Pride is just so vital to society, really. To allowing everybody to be just included as one whole community, but at the same time acknowledging that there's still work to be done within the LGBT community. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely doing its job. And yeah, keep up the good work, Pride.
Well, thank you. And so, if people want any more information about the Roundheads, how can they get that?
So they can contact us through Facebook, or they can go to our website. They can speak to Ben if they know him. He's our membership secretary, or just reach out to any of the members that they might know, or pop down to a training session Wednesday night. Although actually maybe during social distancing. Probably shouldn't have said that. Yeah, check first if you're going to come and watch. But no, yeah, I mean, they're a really great bunch of lads. And it's exactly, the team is exactly what Pride is about: inclusivity. Yeah, and standing for who we are and being proud of it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for talking to me this evening.
You're welcome.
And for sharing, and thank you for everybody that's watching as well.